weren't able to pay those mortgages, and that led to the collapse. But the good thing that we have here in America is this is a unique opportunity for us to show to the world just how great we truly are and how amazing our economy can be. And unlike what Tim Geithner says, and our own president, that the American economy may no longer be the economic engine of the world. I'm sorry, Mr. President, I didn't get that memo, nor do I subscribe to that school of thought. What I propose to advance when we get into Congress is immediately we need a balanced budget amendment. You do it in your home, every single week our federal government should be forced to live under the same rules that their employers, i.e. the American people, enforce in their home. And then I want to see us push forward on the fair tax. The fair tax, we could easily pass it. If they can do the stimulus bill in 48 hours, a bill like the fair tax should take a week at least. But the fair tax, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to have a problem with abolishing the IRS, but I don't think you'll miss it that much. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to have a problem receiving their entire paycheck. Even if you're a Social Security recipient, you will get 100% of your paycheck. And for the young people just graduating from college, with the fair tax, our economy will roar, manufacturing will return to America, and we will dominate the world.
Question number 2 for Mr. Sutherland, who will begin. Admiral Mike Mullen, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has stated that the biggest threat, quote, we have to our national security is our debt. What specific steps do you support to reduce the national debt? Mr. Sutherland, you have 90 seconds.
Well, again, the national debt, you're talking about $14 trillion. You're talking about the cost, the interest that cost this nation going forward. If you look at the entitlement programs of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the interest we pay on that national debt, it is unsustainable. Our budget will not handle that going forward. So therefore, what we have to do, we must have a balanced budget. However, with the caveat, people talk about balanced budgets, but we need balanced budgets that are balanced without having to raise taxes to balance those budgets. And so therefore, you got to go a little step farther than just saying a balanced budget. Again, I made a mention a few moments ago about the 25% cut, and to do that, put a cap on government spending, 20% of GDP. You have got to make your satisfaction of that debt part of your budget process. In business, if we have a debt to the bank, we have to make sure that we factor that loan payment to satisfy that debt out of the resources we have come in. There are only 2 ways that we can make money in our business and you and yours. That is to increase revenue or to decrease expenses. But to satisfy that government debt, it has got to be a line item that we address each and every year through the budget process.
Mr. Hendry, what steps do you support to reduce the national debt? You have 90 seconds.
I'd like to go back to your original intent of that question. You said the biggest threat to our national security is our debt. I differ with that. I think it's Barack Obama. The only way we're going to get out of debt is to grow out of it. That's the only way we've ever been able to do it. And to do that, you have to put in place the mechanisms that I talked about before. Short term, you have to cut corporate tax rates down to 10 or 11% or get rid of them completely. In our poor country in Europe, 2000, they cut the corporate rate to 12%. Over the next 5 years, their GDP grew in double digits. And you had to hide under a rock not to find a job. They became the second wealthiest nation in Europe. So this is one of the things we need to do: get rid of the the capital gains tax and the death tax. We've got to get rid of those. Then we have to freeze spending and start working on bringing these entitlement ends. And the plan for Social Security is very simple. If you're 55 years and older, you get to keep your Social Security. If you're 55 years and older, you get to go to the plan you have now, or you can go to a private account, 6.2%. What you put in, 6.2%, your employer puts in. The great thing about these accounts is they become solid in 20 years, and you get to pass it on from generation to generation. This isn't my plan. This is Paul Ryan's up there, and I intend to caucus with him when I'm elected. Thank you.
Mr. McNeil, what steps do you support to reduce the national debt? You have 90 seconds.
Thank you.
This whole thing is caused by the progressive ideology and the liberal agenda that has caused us this debt by trying to buy votes and obtain power. And it's going to be very difficult to cut back and trim enough to trim off. If you're making $100,000 a year and you spend $150,000 a year, just do that for about 20 years and see how proud your kids are for what you left them in inheritance for you through. And that's what our federal government's done to us. That's what they're doing to us now. I hear all these things up here, and I'm telling you, most all of it's going to be very, very difficult to do. How many people you sent to Washington and say, oh, I'm going to go straighten it out. I'm going to vote for what's right. They haven't done it. I'm going to lead a coalition to rebuild this country with a free enterprise system. We want to bring the money in offshore. Anybody's got money offshore, other corporations, companies, people, bring it onshore, build a business here. We give you a 2-year moratorium for no taxes to build your business here. And then we'll lock in so that you don't have more than 10% tax on your retained earnings only in your corporation. So now you've got a reason to be able to make America a bastion for free enterprise. If we don't rebuild a free enterprise engine that they have choked to death, we will not pull out of this spiral that we've got going right now. And then, if you get enough good jobs, now you can begin to cut back on entitlements and all these other things that these folks are proposing up here, which I guarantee you none of them get up through Congress. But I'm going to get my program through Congress and rebuilding this nation financially.
Mr. Scholl, what steps do you support to reduce the national debt? You have 90 seconds.
You know, I think Admiral Mullen hit the nail on the head. And for an Air Force guy to say that about a Navy guy, that's unique. That's saying something there. But the debt, it's going to cripple our economy and our nation and limit the future of our American way of life for our children. But the key to this is, and here's the state secret, and it's something that Shelley and I use in our house: stop the spending. When you've hit your limit, you're done. Right now, we have already spent over $1 trillion this year. We've exceeded the budget, and yet they still weekly are submitting spending bills. That is ridiculous. There's no reason to be doing that. So we need the balanced budget amendment. But the beauty of the fair tax, when we instigate the fair tax, we're going to put $1.5 trillion into the economy. We are going to grow this economy. Businesses that have money overseas are going to repatriate those dollars tax-free. And we are going to see job creation like we've never seen it. We will also see a return to manufacturing. And as our economy grows, instead of a measly 2.7% growth on our GDP, we will be at 5.5%, 6.5%, 7.5%. That additional revenue coming into the federal coffers will help them pay down their debt, provided we send individuals that are fiscally responsible. And we will make America great, we will pay down our debt, and we will never allow it to happen again.
Ms. Olshner, what steps do you support to reduce the national debt? You have 90 seconds.
One of the most frightening things is that when we talk about the national debt, we do realize that all we're talking about is the federal debt. We're not talking about the state debt that all the states are in. So we are in worse shape with our debt than we really know, because all we focus is on the national debt. And I will tell you that regardless of all the other programs that we certainly want to reduce spending and all of that, but all of the top economists agree that when Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid is 65% of the budget, that must be addressed before you can address anything else. By the year 2040, every dollar we pay in taxes will go to our entitlement program. There'll be nothing left for a bridge, a road, or a congressperson's salary, which may be fine with all of us. The fair tax, the problem with the fair tax helping with the national debt is the fair tax cannot be enacted until the 16th Amendment, which is the amendment that allowed the federal government to tax your income, is repealed. And therefore, it will sunset after 5 years. If it can't be repealed, it's a constitutional amendment, and therefore it could take years. 7 years is the last constitutional amendment. We cannot afford to lose a decade in our economic program the way we are now. We need to reform Social Security and Medicare first and foremost to reduce the national debt.